She has your hat.
Yeah, there we go. I think we are live. So this is conversation number 3, right?
Right?
And Edie, and I'm Patty, and this is Hi Baby. And we are talking about Edie's awesome class that she made and she does. And she's taken so much time to prepare, to get everything ready so the kids can have an amazing, enriching, and educational experience. And when I think about starting a class and doing a class, one of the first things I think of is getting a number of kids in a room and setting rules and expectations, right? And Edie has a interesting take on it.
Yeah.
How do you manage that in your
Well, I think that starting with rules and expectations is important. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just really curious what would happen if we started with um, instead of here are the rules, what does it mean to show up as yourself? What does it mean to show up um, and know that this is a space where you belong? And how is that communicated at an age appropriate level to learners, anyone? And what does that look like? So, what does that look like at Illuminate Studios?
Yeah, well, I mean, um, what interests me is that you've worked in a lot of years in education. You've done a lot of hours in the classroom
Hmm.
with a lot of different kids. And so, how did you get to the point where um, you started to explore that idea? Was there a particular experience with a student or with yourself or your own experience as a student?
Yeah, I just I noticed that there was a trend that was starting toward my later years of education of like creating a class agreement, and
Mm,
each class would come in, and they had at a K through 5 school they had all created class agreements in their homeroom classroom, and then we would bring that up in their first class of what they agreed on as a class and how that looks in an art studio. And what it comes down to is they would understand what the expectations were as far as behavior is concerned, and they liked to flesh out the rules just so they knew how what boundaries they could push up against. um, but when we got buy-in from the students was when they agreed with each other, and the they got the experience of making their own rules, so to speak. But I wanted to get underneath that and really, as creative expression, make an environment that's psychologically safe, which means um, I don't have to perform these expectations. What I was trying to get at was like, I respect you as a person that's different from me and that has your own ideas and your own agenda. And what does that look like if everyone gets that opportunity to come and express themselves?
mm. So I think about that and I try to think about doing that over with different personalities that are in a class.
Mhm.
Does it ever get difficult? Do you ever get to the point where you're like, why did I, set this this unique standard? You know,
Yeah,
uh,
for sure.
do you find some personalities try to take advantage of that, or just can't fit into that?
Yeah, and different ages do it differently, as they're, like, exploring what kind of the boundaries of what the expectations would be in a classroom. How do we respect everybody's needs at the same time? Starts to come become a creative problem to solve, and to come into a class as a really young person is a whole different um, experience than as a tween or someone who's older. Um, there's this thing in behavioral science called a preference assessment. And one on one, you learn what the likes and dislikes are of your client. And I really like that because what ends up happening is you get to know the students, what their likes and dislikes are, and that gives you more uh, trust. And they trust that you're there for their well-being, if there's a genuine interest. And
Mhm.
so I think that, giving them art materials to show what they like what color they like, something simple. What's their favorite color that they can share with others and what it reminds them of, and ask them
Mm.
personal things. It gives them a place where they feel cared about. And then that creates the psychological safety where they know that rules are important because it's respectful to them and to other people, and it keeps people safe, not just physical safety,
Mm.
but where they
But
fit in.
yeah, we were talking about it like a sense of belonging.
Yeah. Hmm. And so the first kind of project that or not project, but activity experience is this little welcome flag. And I'm waving it back and forth. What it shows, if you're just listening to this conversation, is I've collaged children's artwork onto my flag because it I love the whimsy of children's creations, and I love how children can simply express joy with very little technical skill, and you still get that fresh sense of joy.
Mm. That's
And
cool.
that everybody has the right to express what they like, what brings them happiness.
So in your class, would you do that sort of assessment that you referred to,
A
the
preference
likes and
assessment?
preference
Yeah.
assessment?
Yeah, I think it's really beneficial to know what stimulates people that are there to have an experience with you, what they find interesting, what they're really what lights them up, because that's, for me, that's what a creative setting is like discovering what lights you up over and over again. I don't know, as a musician, how you feel about that.
It's funny because when we first started talking about this, the first thing that came to my mind was Another Brick in the Wall by,
Yeah.
because Pink Floyd has this concept. I can't remember which album. It took me a little while to discover Pink Floyd, but when I did, I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are amazing.
Uh-huh.
But that concept of education kind of beating it out of your individual, another brick
Yeah.
in the wall, you're beating it out of your individuality. And so when I was a kid, that's how I felt the entire time. I had a really clear thought in my mind when I was in sixth grade. I remember so clearly thinking, I've got another 6 years in school. And I was thought, how am I going to be able to do this? So um, that I don't know, good or bad. Kids go through these experiences. But when you talk about it, that was the first thing I thought about because it's hard to find that in a regular classroom setting. Uh, how do you take that time to explore your tastes and your individuality and what works for you? It's almost like you're told, this is how it's got to be. You have to fit in.
Right.
Uh, um, but that's why I love this concept for your class, is
Yeah.
it starts up from the tastes of the student and the desires of the student.
Mhm. So
Yeah,
I love that you
oh, go
brought up
ahead.
Pink Floyd because I listened to that another brick in the wall. Um, I listen to that song on repeat, especially at this time of year because it traditionally is when everyone is their summer break is over and they have to go back in
Yeah.
this setting where um, it's not always about, it's you need to do this or else you're not going to belong. You need to do and that seems to be traditional education where it sort of went. And I think things are changing and people are understanding that you can't get lifelong learners and you can't get people who are engaged with something, um, if you're coming at it to how do I mold you into something that I think is best for you. You have to really investigate what, and I'll say it again, like what lights up this person in front of me or these students in front of me, um, so that you can have a genuine connection with them. I just I don't think that they're little molds that you have to fill up. I feel like they're interactive, and that's what excites
Yeah.
me about Illuminate's um, whole outlook, as far as I'm understanding it, is that we're filling what people need, not telling them what they need.
That's a really good way to put it. But I also want to say this too. We love the elementary school where my kids are in. In fact,
Mhm.
here's their hat. Here's the Will Rogers hat, right?
That's awesome.
So I think that experience I was saying was just somewhat anecdotal, but there's definitely I don't want to say bash the public schools. I don't think
No way.
that's not my message. Or the mainstream education system. I don't think so. I just think that there's a lot of different types of personalities.
Yeah,
So uh, visual learners are going to have a different experience than kinesthetic learners,
yeah,
auditory learners,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So in when I started doing some work in Ventura Unified District, I didn't understand the whole administrative side. I got an insight into the administrative side. And just to administrate is a huge task. The cost of, so much money, it's so much manpower. So I don't think I'm trying to belittle or simplify that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That does
But I
make
think that, yeah, that's certainly not the purpose. But the brick in the wall experience was my experience as a kid. I very much felt that way. So.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that when I think about Illuminate Studios, I don't think we're trying to replace something. I think we're trying to augment, or provide options or provide space, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so, which makes sense why like Edy May would be a good class at Illuminate.
Yeah, and I like starting with, letting people tell the facilitator, what without words, what brings them joy, and I'm prepping materials over here in my studio to bring to Illuminate that will make it easier for people to express themselves. Like, instead of drawing what they like, I mean, that's always an option, but like I'm cutting up all of these little collage bits of other children's drawings that I've photocopied and taken from my notes and cut into little pieces that might inspire someone else, and bring them joy. Uh, Pieces from magazines, like little quirky stickers, things that they can build from as a way of saying, this is me, this is me, this is me. Oh, yes, this is me. And then if it's not them,
Mhm.
they can leave it in the bin for someone else. And so I'm creating all these little buckets of images that people can assemble in their own way with their own colors of expression.
That's cool because last night I was working and I was here until 12 at night assembling the 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 cabinets that lock where Edie's going to be able to store her materials.
I'm I'm
because
excited about
that's an
that.
important part of it. Yeah. So then what can a parent expect? So from that, let's talk about a drop off. What would
Sure.
a parent expect when they have their kid enrolled and show up to an ED made class?
So they could expect an a somewhat easy transition, a gentle arrival. Students immediately have something accessible that they can do. They can draw on a whiteboard, they can explore some sensory material that will always be available. And then a creative invitation, a question, a theme, an object, or an idea that gives students a place to begin without determining where they must end. So when I
Mm,
bring a sample like the one that I held up earlier, the little flag, it's not something for them to, I don't want them to go away with with a product. I want them to have an experience. This is an invitation to have an experience. So that would be really emphasized as I bring materials to them. That would be said over and over in different ways. And then a demonstration of possibilities would be involved so that they know what some directions are to use the materials that they're presented with. And
mm,
then always encouraging exploration. And if they experience something like they make a mistake, I often introduce this book called Beautiful Oops. I don't know if you've ever read it before. It's by, I think the author is Barney Salzberg. And it's just about the inevitability of making a quote unquote mistake and then turning it into something else that was unexpected. So it's like this surprise that you and celebrating when that happens. I often show them parts of the book and then say, if you experience a beautiful oops, I want you to tell me so I can give you a high five. And that
nice.
becomes rewarded. And then noticing things like curiosity, courage, kindness, persistence, creativity, and connection within each person within their process, and really saying, acknowledging the learner for that, and really placing a
Mm,
high value on that as they're working. And then
that's awesome.
always optional reflection and sharing, so that they can share what they discovered with their classmates or with me. And then a family connection at the end, a simple question or observation that you can ask your child about when they are finished with the experience.
That's awesome. Uh, I love that.
Yeah, thanks.
So here's an interesting question. Um, how would a parent know when they've taken an ED class, ED made class for a while? How would they see that they've learned something? Like, and this is why I ask it. I took my son to Muay Thai. There's a fantastic Muay Thai gym for kids. And before he went in, he was hitting like this,
Uh-huh.
But they taught him how to actually strike with the proper technique. And for better or for worse, when he hits his brother, he can really hit. He can actually do it well. And so I was thought, oh, he learned something. So um, how would that work in ED Made? If I'm a parent watching my kid and they take an ED Made class, uh, what would I be like? Oh, okay, I see where you got that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, you know, there would be a sense of wonder that would be sparked. Like, I wonder what would happen if I did it this way next time.
Mm,
Or I wonder what would happen if I mixed a different color for this part. It would be more exploratory questions about the art making process, and not necessarily saying, "Oh, I you can only do painting this way," or really limiting defining talk about how I did it right or I did it wrong. More like, this is the way I chose to do it. Um, you would hear more responsibility for the process in the way that they would articulate their experience.
Whoa, responsibility for the process.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Maybe a little cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there might be some cleanup involved.
That's good. I love that, man. I know. I mean, we can always try to get them to get more responsibility in cleaning.
Yeah.
But that's cool. So they would kind of. It sounds like self awareness is very much part of the DNA of this class.
It is. It's really reinforcing that what if or I wonder if type of thinking. Like, we don't have to know how something is gonna, uh, turn out, and what were the surprises involved? What were the challenges? Did you help someone? Did like, did you notice something that you liked about someone else's that you wanted to
Mhm.
do on yours? Um, yeah, I feel like you will start to notice that self-awareness and, a curiosity too.
That's awesome. I mean, talk about a useful skill or perspective all throughout life. The beautiful oops,
Mhm.
right? And then also what I mean, as an adult, when you're trying to do things and you're trying to get to some end,
Right.
and in a perfect world, it happens, and there's no problems, but or deviations, but there's no way it's going to happen. There's going to be some sort of issue. So I don't know. Trying to deal with that as an adult even is
Yeah,
a real skill.
it
Yeah,
is. It's a
think about
practice.
parenting. It's a practice. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
practice. Uh, things aren't black and white. Parenting, you want your kid to do this, but you got to work with who they are.
Absolutely. And let them know that it's okay, it's more than okay, it's celebrated that they are who they are.
Yeah, that's really good. So since we talked yesterday, I've been thinking a lot about like you said, with the way that I parent. Um, you always try to do your best, and that it is a process. Uh, we're all on the continuum. Uh, so these are very much central to the ideas of what the Space of Illuminate's about, and I think that maybe I can fill in a little bit about what parents can expect when they bring their kids to an Edy made class. So they're going to have their kids be received by Edy, and the class will take place in the community room. You're going to do the community room, right?
Yeah, I think that would be the best spot.
Okay, cool. So right now we're in the kids space, which is why the kids sensory gym's in the back. We have a community room in one of the other rooms, so a parent can now a parent can stay. Right? Can a parent pull up a chair and
Oh,
watch the
yeah.
whole class? And
Absolutely.
could a
Parents
parent
are welcome. Mhm.
can a parent draw or do things too?
For sure. I think that would be wonderful.
Awesome. So that's an option. Also, part of uh, really the main goal of Illuminate Studios is to give a parent an option while their kid is in class. So
Yeah,
a parent can drop off their kid, and we'll have adult movement exercise classes. We'll have co-working, and then we have a lounge too. So everybody's all under kind of one roof is the idea. So there you go, parents. That's what you can expect. Um, maybe meet a friend and chit chat with a friend, or uh, some way participate in the community that'll be coming in and out of Illuminate Studios.
absolutely. Well, I think this is a good place to pause on
All
our
right.
I'm gonna hit end recording.